Hello and welcome back to this week's Tuesday edition of the Korean Beauty Show podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Lee, founder of online Kbeauty platform Style Story, podcaster, and of course, your guide to all things Korean beauty. I cannot believe that we are already in February. That is pretty crazy. I know January is always a little bit of a blur for me personally. I always try and take some time off, or at least some time away from the office over the Christmas and New Year's break. And then by the time I get back, January, it's just kind of like all goes by in a blur. And before we know it, it's February. So that is kind of crazy to me. But there has been a lot of news headlines that have been quite interesting in the last week. So let's run through some of those. Now, the first one is the announcement by Seoul Metro that it has signed contracts with two companies to add their names next to existing subway stations, and one of those is Amore Pacific. So what Amore Pacific is going to do is their name will be added to the end of an existing metro station, basically a subway station on the Seoul subway line. So when the subway pulls up, it'll be like, you've now arrived at blah 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 Amore Pacific station, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. Apparently the Seoul Metro is receiving 380 million won from Amore Pacific. So I think that's probably roughly about maybe 35 million. I think that's right. From Amore Pacific for the naming rights, basically. And what they've come out and said is that in order to purchase subway naming rights, the companies, unis, or hospitals around the station have to be located within 1 kilometre of the station. And then the contract runs for 3 years and they can only extend it once. And apparently the reason why they're doing this is to make up for growing losses. So obviously it's not cheap to run a subway station, and Korea has one of the best subways, certainly that I've ever been on. The only one I think that could come close in terms of like coverage is Japan, the Tokyo subway system. But again, that's quite expensive for what it is. There's a lot of privately owned railway lines along the Tokyo subway line, which is not the case in Korea, particularly in Seoul. Only one of them, I'm pretty sure, line 9, I'm pretty sure is the only one that is privatized. And that has a whole heap of problems. So this is for the public lines that are run by the government. And I think the reason that they face so many losses is because Korea lets a lot of the elderly onto the subway for free. That's kind of just a benefit that is offered to them by the government. But that, of course, means that they can't then collect subway fares from those people. So they've been running it at a loss for quite a while. And of course, Korea now has a highly, I think they call it a super aging population. Basically, what we're headed for is, in the not too distant future, there's going to be more old people than there are young people in Korean society. That's sort of a problem, I think, in a lot of Asian countries. But in Korea particularly, the birth rate has just been decimated, so there's not very many babies being born at all, not even enough to replace the current levels of people in Korea. And then, of course, people are getting older, so these people are riding the subway for free. But I shared this on my stories, and a lot of people on Instagram, and people were just like, what? The actual, how can you name a subway station, after a company? But there you go. So if you want to check it out, I guess, apparently it will be finished in March, and it's going to be at Shin-Yongsan Station. So if you're riding along there, keep an eye out for Shin-Yongsan Amore Pacific Station. And then the other one that was in the headlines was Shinhan Card, which is a credit card company, basically. They are now going to be Uljiro Samga Shinhan Card Station. So that is a little bit of a mouthful. But there you go. So if you are traveling on any of those lines in Seoul over the next, I guess, 3 years, keep an eye out for those. So yeah, that was a little bit of a crazy one. And another one that I saw, so on January the 26th, the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety has indicated that they are pushing ahead with banning a chemical in hair dyes. So the chemical in question is 1,2,4-THB. Basically, they said that they are intending to finish up with the legislation in the first half of this year, and then they will will grant a 6-month grace period for companies to bring their products into line and get rid of this chemical in their products. So they are not actually the first to ban this chemical. The European Commission also did the same. And basically why this chemical is being banned is that they cannot rule out potential genotoxicity, which causes mutations in DNA from this one. And it's also thought to be a skin sensitizer and a mild skin irritant. So there is one brand, a Korean brand already, that their shampoo will be affected by this ruling. They're using the chemical as basically a browning agent in the shampoo to like keep your hair, I guess, browner and darker. So that was another one. I know we spoke on last week's news headlines as well about a whole nother set of stuff that they were talking about banning. So look, this one seems to have a lot more data to back it up. 1,2,4-THB is that one. It's a hair dye basically, so that we're talking about hair products rather than cosmetics, but that was in the news headlines for this last week as well. Now, for this week's question of the week, you guys, if you've been listening to this year's episodes so far, will know that we have spoken a little bit about this Korean reality TV show, Singles Inferno. Now, I promise you this show is not turning into a show about Singles Inferno. However, I think just because it's trending on Netflix, we've had a lot of questions about it, about, you know, some of the Korean cultural stuff in it, the Korean language stuff, and then, of course, one of the contestants who was on the show, her name is Song Jia, and she was one of the really popular ones. All the boys, you know, were going for her. In the end, I think she had 3 of them, you know, that wanted to like be with her. Anyway, she was, I guess, quite well known on the show because she was always wearing luxury and designer brands. So pretty much at every scene that she appeared on that show, she was wearing, you know, Chanel, Dior, some sort of branded stuff from pretty much head to toe, including all of her accessories. And a couple of really eagle-eyed people in Korea pointed out that some of the stuff that she was wearing was fake. And then this whole scandal erupted because she has her own YouTube channel. She is actually a very prolific YouTuber in Korea and was kind of already famous before she went on the show. So then basically what happened is a lot of internet sleuths went back through all of her catalog of YouTube videos, I guess you could say, and was sort of pulling apart what she was wearing and going, well, hey, this is fake, that's fake, like she's wearing a lot of sort of fake stuff. And it blew up into a huge thing. It has been in the headlines now for weeks, and the scandal has sort of unfolded. And basically where it has landed is that she has removed all of her Instagram and YouTube posts, and the only thing that she's got up at the moment is a public apology, basically apologizing for wearing fake designer clothing. The Korean, I guess, netizens is what they call them, like the public that, you know, consumes media online. They have been having a literal field day over this. She's actually been edited out of another upcoming TV show. So a lot of people are just very, very angry about it. You know, I mean, I guess, you know, this is cancel culture at its finest. People are sort of going for her. And so basically the question of the week was from one of our listeners, and she was just like, can you talk about on the show, you know, your opinion about what is going on with this whole scandal? So look, as far as I can gather from what I have seen in the media, a lot of foreign fans of the show think that this scandal is overblown and totally outrageous. You know, people are just, I've seen comments basically like, you know, what's the big deal? If this is not a cancelable offense. And then other people are saying, well, those brands are stupid anyway. You know, people pay way too much for it. They can afford it. Like, what's the big deal? So look, I think netizen culture in Korea in general is very cancel happy. I will say that. I've seen people get cancelled for all manner of things, ranging the full gamut from smoking marijuana, which is illegal in Korea, admittedly, but also a really, really big taboo here, all the way through to like things that probably people should get cancelled for, like, you know, sexual assault and, you know, sexual misdemeanors and actual crimes and things like that. But I would say in general, you know, Korea does have a very harsh netizen culture where people are sort of attacking celebrities and, you know, combing through everything they do. And by the same token, I guess, you know, if someone has a lot of fans, those fans will go after other people if they're seen as, you know, putting a star down or something like that. So that is definitely part and parcel of Korean culture, you know, for better or worse. That just seems to be a thing. You know, I think that's trickling through, unfortunately, not necessarily from Korea, but like Western culture these days, Western media. It's just, you can't sort of, you know, do anything wrong and people are dragging up like tweets that people made from like 12 years ago. So I think this is kind of a cultural moment at the moment, this whole idea of cancel culture and holding people to accountability. But I think it goes a little bit deeper than that for this particular thing. So look, Koreans love designer stuff, absolutely love it. And a lot of people spend a lot of time, effort, and money to, you know, go and buy designer things. That's what I would say. Like, there is something in Korean culture that people just love to have these designer clothes. They love designer handbags. If you ride the subway station in Seoul, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that does not have a designer handbag. I mean, look, I'm probably overstating it slightly, but particularly like wallets, handbags, things like that, people really love to buy stuff like that. They really love to have the latest, you know, designer sneakers, and they will line up and sleep outside overnight like to do that. I know since COVID broke out, a lot of people have been channeling their spare income that they would have spent on travel into buying designer stuff here. So there have been, I think, 3 price hikes in Chanel in Korea in the last year and a half. People have been literally sleeping outside overnight to get into, you know, a Chanel store to buy a bag when it gets released. And the other thing is, if you go into any department store in Korea at the moment, because of COVID, the luxury stores have introduced this thing where they won't have more than a couple of people in the store at a time. And what that means is they've now got a waiting system where you have to go, take a number, and basically they will call you or ping you when your number comes up and you can go back to the store. And look, I've tried this a couple of times and I'm talking hours long waits. Like, you can go at 8:30 in the morning and there will, well, you know, whatever, first thing in the morning, and there will be like 80 teams in front of you of people waiting to get in. So you just basically have to, you know, walk around the mall, go and have some lunch, go and have a coffee or something, and then wait for your number to come back. And sometimes it's been like literally 4, 5, 6 hours later that I've got the message, and I'm long gone by then. Like, I'm not sticking around to like go and have a browse in one of these stores. But the point is, if you are someone that does that and you go to so much trouble to get your luxury goods, which a lot of people do, particularly at the moment with COVID, I think that's maybe where some of this is coming from, is that people are just like, okay, we thought you had all of this stuff and, you know, you had this particular lifestyle, and then now it's all fake. So look, what do I think about the whole scandal? Do I think it's justified or not? I think it's obviously, it's been taken very, very far. That would be my starting point. It is very, very far the extent to which this poor girl has been harassed. Her family has been harassed. I don't agree with that at all. Do I think she should have worn that many fake designer goods or fake designer goods on a national broadcast? I mean, it ended up being broadcast internationally, but even still, she knew it was going to be broadcast in Korea. Not a great idea. Like, let's be honest. Not a great idea to be wearing designer goods on a national TV show. The other thing I think is that, you know, a lot of people have been saying things like, well, it's a victimless crime. You know, these companies already have heaps of money. You know, what's the problem? And that I do have a little bit of a problem with. And the reason is that it's not a victimless crime. It's not at all a victimless crime. So a lot of counterfeiters, they don't pay their tax, they don't pay their business rates, they don't make any financial contribution to economies. And that's not good for everyone. I saw one report that indicates in the UK alone, counterfeiting costs the economy $17.3 billion and about 72,000 jobs a year. So that is not a victimless crime by any imagination. I mean, obviously as a consumer, if you buy a counterfeit product, fake, and then it breaks or whatnot, it's no longer fit for purpose, you can't get a refund, you can't get an exchange, there are no like rights that exist. You can't complain to a government agency and say, hey, this just doesn't work. There's no guarantee or warranty, so that's also not great. And I think, particularly as someone that is in business, as an entrepreneur, the idea that, you can spend so much time making something and then someone else comes along and just copies your product and makes money off the back of that does not sit well with me at all. I think I would be really devastated if someone came along and did the same thing, say, to one of my skincare products and just like made a cheap knockoff of it. It's not really fair. It kind of sucks. Like, I get that these are big conglomerates, but, in general, that's not a great way to approach things, I don't think. Interpol has also reported that even terrorist groups are involved in trafficking fake consumer goods, and they do that to support their activities. So what do I think about all of that in a nutshell? It's not a victimless crime. I don't agree that just because these companies have heaps of money that, you should be able to wear fakes. I don't think it's as simple as that. I think in terms of like Jia wearing the products and things like that on her YouTube channel and her and on the TV show, just not a great idea from a legal perspective, like to be getting in trouble with the brands and things like that. I think maybe some of the commentary about, it does go to the character of the person, maybe that's valid. Why did she feel the need to show up in all of these fakes, That's probably a deeper question that she might want to ask herself. But I think the reason this is blown up is because of how obsessed Koreans are by designer brands. I really cannot overstate that enough, particularly at the moment in the current climate where people can't travel overseas. This is really how a lot of people have been channeling their, I guess, pent-up frustrations is shopping, and a lot of that is shopping for designer stuff. I know in other countries designer stuff is just not that big of a deal, but here, for whatever reason, it really, really is. People love giving designer stuff to their friends as gifts, to their parents-in-law. It's not unheard of for parents-in-law to gift, their daughter-in-law or whatnot, a really nice designer handbag. That is just the culture here. I think it's seen as like a mark of, being well made or whatnot. So I think you probably can't divorce those two things. Why has this scandal blown up so big here in Korea in particular? I think there's a lot of that sort of tied into it. So I don't know. I think in a nutshell, that's my thought. I think if I was her friend, I would probably be like, don't wear that stuff on a TV show. It's just not going to end well. For whatever reason, if people find out, if the brands find out, why would you want to bring that kind of a headache on yourself? It is, I don't think it's entirely above board to be wearing fakes. And this was not just one or two either. This was a lot of different fake products. I saw another statistic that said that 25% of UK consumers purchased counterfeit products in 2018. So this is obviously a very, very common practice. Whether or not it's advisable to wear them on TV or not, I'm going to fall on the side of I don't think it's a very good idea. That's where I sort of come down on it at. I just think you're inviting problems, right? And in this day and age where everyone is looking for everyone to make a single wrong step so that they can cancel them, why would you invite that kind of scrutiny? That's kind of where I'm at with it. Now, do I agree with cancel culture and that she should be cancelled? No, I think it's gone way, way, way too far. But the same could be said of pretty much everyone getting cancelled. People are getting cancelled for some really crazy things these days. I think the whole idea of cancelling people for stuff is so stupid. If you really want to help somebody, why don't you have a quiet word to them, and actually try and help them rather than, shouting out about it on social media and tagging the person. I really don't like that aspect of social media. I think it's super stressful. I think it gives a lot of people, anxiety and, complexes and stuff like that because you feel like you just cannot put a foot right no matter what you do. But yeah, in a nutshell, I think that's why it blew up. I think it was just the perfect storm of, Korean netizens love to complain about something. It was found that, you know, there were lots and lots of different instances where she had been wearing fakes. A lot of people in Korea love their luxury goods, and I think that's why it's blown up into such a big thing. But yeah, I know the commentary I've seen from people overseas is just like, oh, this is so ridiculous. Like, I don't understand why this is a thing. That's just my 10 cents. So take away from that what you will. I would love to know if you have a different opinion. Do you think it's not a big deal at all? Should we all just go out and wear fakes? You know, do you buy fakes yourself? And you're just like, I don't see what the problem is. Like, I'd be happy to listen to anyone that has a different opinion. This is just mine. So take it with the grain of salt that you will. But yeah, that's my thoughts in a 10-minute nutshell about what I think about it. So yeah, look, I don't know what's going to happen to her for the time being. I think probably she will bounce back from it. A lot of times in these kind of scandals, and like way worse things than this too, I'm talking people that have done actual crimes and whatnot, they generally do tend to come back. It's just that there is, you know, a little bit of a gap in their activities. I think it'll probably be the same thing for her. I think she may need to just lay low for the time being, wait for it to pass over and, you know, people to move on to something else, I guess. How long that will take, I'm not sure. I mean, she has a huge following, so I would imagine that there would definitely be people that are still interested to know what she gets up to after this. Obviously, for, you know, some of her followers, they feel like they have lost trust in her, and you know, that's a personal thing, I guess, but I wouldn't be surprised if she comes back. I think the unfortunate thing is, you know, she just had this breakout show and then the scandal erupted right as she was sort of really getting popular. That's really unfortunate for her, and I guess that's probably, to take it back full circle, that's why I reckon, you know, if she had her time over again, or if you were her friend, you'd probably be like, don't bother, it's not worth risking your, you know, career. You know, this has hurt her endorsement deals and things like that as well. I just don't think it would have been worth it if she'd really thought about it, you know. Really, at the end of the day, who cares what you wear? Wear stuff that suits you, you know. There's no need to be portraying that you wear only designer clothing, particularly if it is fake, you know. Just wear stuff that you like, I guess. That would be probably my advice to her, you know. Pick the path that's going to lead to the least problems down the track. I think that's always my advice to anyone, is just, if you think it's likely to cause problems for you tomorrow, then don't do it today. It's just going to avoid all of those kind of headaches. So anyway, I will leave it there. If you guys do have a question that you would like answered on a question of the week, it can be absolutely anything K-beauty related, Korean culture, whatever language, come and find me and let me know. I am on the gram at lauren.kbeauty, and I often post stuff like this to my stories and whatnot. So, you know, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, by all means, swing by and get involved in the conversation. All right, and to round up this Tuesday's episode, we have some new releases, products that have just landed at stylestory.com.au, and the first of those is Beauty of Joseon's Bubble Toner, Green, Plum, and AHA. So some of you might remember that Beauty of Joseon previously did have a bubble toner. Well, they discontinued it, and then they came out with a new one with new packaging and a new formula. So this one contains 25% green plum water, Korean green plum water, and 3% glycolic acid, AHA, as the key ingredients. It has a pH of 3.23, which is a good pH for a product of this type that is aiming to, you know, help with your sebum secretion, to tighten your pores, to gently remove dead skin and impurities. So that is a good one to look out for if you are aiming to tackle any of those kind of things. I think this would be a good one for people with oily skin in particular. So that's that one. And then the second one that we just launched is a supersize version of Dr. Jart's Ceramidin hand cream. So this is 100 mils, whereas the basic version is 50. So this is perfect for people that just really go through a lot of hand cream. If you're in winter or you're going into winter, this one is a really good one to keep your hands moisturized. It provides nail care without leaving any stickiness. And of course, Ceramidin means we've got ceramides in that formula. So great to keep dry skin hydrated and also to strengthen the skin as well. So this is a really, really beautiful product. It feels almost like a butter, but it melts straight into the hands. So a really good one if you've looked down at your hands lately and you're just like, oh my Lord, like they're just looking a bit manky, then this is a really, really perfect hand cream for you. So 2 new products on the Style Story website now. I would love you to go and check them out if you haven't already. And I will be back on Thursday. As you know, in 2022, we are now dropping 2 episodes a week. And on this Thursday's episode, something a little bit different, we are going to be discussing popular beauty treatments in Korea. So stick around, make sure you hit subscribe so that you don't miss that episode, and I will talk to you on Thursday.